Anyway, let's talk today Pentax versus Canon. A lot of people go out to buy their first DSLR and they look at Canon and Nikon just because that's what they have at Best Buy and whatnot, and they're the most popular. So if you're going to buy your first DSLR, I would say look around. You don't have to go with Canon or Nikon. Sony makes some great cameras. Olympus makes some great cameras. So look at those as well. So let me talk about Canon. I started out buying a Canon. My first DSLR was a Canon T2i. I bought it in 2010 when they were first released. A very good quality camera. At that point, I just dove in deep and bought lens after lens, and really didn't know what I liked to shoot. It took me a while to find what I really had a passion for shooting. I had that Canon T2i for about a year. Then I bought a 60D. I like the little flippy screen on there. Let me go back. The reason I bought the Canon T2i is because of the video. Originally, I thought I would shoot 80% video and 20% pictures. I was ready to go. I got it, and I just love taking still pictures. So I ended up taking about 90% still photos, and then just the other 10% was video. So I just fell in love with that. Like I said, I bought all the lenses, and then about a year after I bought that T2i, I went to the 60D with the flippy screen, which was really cool. Very nice. Then from that, about a year and a half later, I bought the 5D Mark III. Went all at it. Bought L series lenses, the whole deal for Canon. All those were very nice cameras, like I said, but I came into some financial trouble, so I had to sell all my equipment. Well, I sold all my equipment, and I was just going to go back and just kind of buy the 60D. Well, I said, well, I'm kind of starting from scratch here, so let's look at some of the other cameras. I really enjoyed the Canon, but there might be something out there that I kind of know what I like to shoot and what would work for me. So one of my buddies had a Pentax, an older model, a K10 or KR. So I took it in my hands, flipped around the menus, took a few shots, and I was like, man, this is a pretty cool camera. So I did some investigating on Pentax. So I was thinking about, like I said, buying a Canon 60D. So I went and did some research, kind of the equivalent in Pentax. Well, it was the K30. That's what I'm shooting this with now, by the way. So the K30 versus the 60D. I looked up the image quality differences and the ISO performance, and believe it or not, the Pentax was rated just a little bit higher for that. I was like, wow, that's kind of weird. It's Canon's the best, right? Well, so after that, I looked at some of the features of the camera. Well, this Pentax K30 has weather sealing, which you don't get with that 60D. You get that when you get the 7D, which is quite a bit more. So I was like, well, I looked at a few other features, and I was like, well, I'm going to go ahead and get this Pentax K30. I bought it used on eBay. The difference in price between used, just the body, Pentax K30, I bought it for $430. They go from $430 up to $500 used. The 60D was around $450 up to $525. So they're really close in price. But I've had this K30 now for about 4 or 5 months. I'm really enjoying it, and I would actually recommend it over any of the other Canon crop sensor cameras. So let me go over some of the things I like about Pentax a little bit after all that brief history. Brief, that was a couple minutes with it. Alright, so just this K30, just the body on it is a lot smaller, and it's just a very solid body. I really enjoy that. Like I said, that you have to go up to the 7D to get that weather sealing. So I actually had my Pentax. I went into Target the other day, and after going from the 5D to this Pentax K30, you know, it was quite a bit smaller when I got this. I was like, wow, this thing is so tiny. And then over the past couple months, I've just gotten so used to it in my hand. It just feels very solid. It's got a very deep grip right here to fit in your hand perfectly. So I went and I picked up T3i at Target, and I was like, man, this thing is massive compared to the K30. So it's really compact and it's very solid. You get a solid metal chassis inside there as well, which I didn't mention. But so that was one thing, just the smaller of it. And as far as lenses, the Pentax lenses, the DA, those are the newer digital lenses. They're so small compared to the Canons. They're almost double the size and double the weight on the Canon side compared to these smaller Pentax. The image quality on these Pentax Primes is very good, super, as a matter of fact, just as good as the Canon. So a lot of the stuff is very similar, but just these little subtleties on this Pentax makes me recommend it a little bit more than I would the Canon versions. Okay. When you're looking at the K30, that's one of the things that they'll brag about is the build quality of it. The other thing they'll talk about, which isn't that big a deal to me, is the viewfinder. You get 100% viewfinder. So what you're looking through the viewfinder, you take the picture, that's what you're going to get. With Canon, it's like 97% or something, so you'll get a little bit less. So something that's not framed in the viewfinder, you might have a little bit extra on the side. It's not that big a deal. You can crop it out with Lightroom or whatever software you want, but I've rarely had that happen when I'm using Canon, that there was something on the side that I didn't want in the shot that was actually in the shot. So I wouldn't really brag about that too much. The other thing I liked when I was looking, like I said, I was on a budget, so looking at Pentax, they use a K-mount. So you could go back to the start of Pentax and use their lenses. They've had that same mounting system, the K-mount, all the way till now. So you can use all these older lenses without an adapter like you would have to on Canon with their older lenses. So Canon has, they use EF and EFS mount right now. Before that it was FD and FL mount. So before 1987 or whenever it was, when Canon released their film EOS EF mount, you'll be on the FD mount, so you'd have to use an adapter. With the older Pentax lenses, going back, if you could put those straight on the camera, which is cool. And another cool thing about this K30, I'm assuming it's the same with the other models. Even though you have to manually adjust your focus on the lens for those older things, older lenses, it does have focus confirmation, so it will beep and let you know, hey, that's in focus. It's not 100% locked in focus, I found, but it's nice to know you're really close at that point. A lot of times with the older lenses, I'll just use the back LCD and kind of magnify and get that focus nailed down. So that's something you don't have with Canon, is the availability to use these older, very old lenses on there. Canon, like I said, you'll have to use an adapter, and it doesn't have that focus confirmation. You have to add a chip to the back of the adapter to actually get that. So, so you can get these very old lenses, very old prime lenses. Like here's one I've got. This is a Tokina lens, a 28mm. So this is one I use. This is an older one. I guess it's from the 70s, I guess, maybe early 80s. But it has, you have to adjust, like I said, focus manually, and then on the adapter ring you have to adjust that manually. But some of them actually are auto, so there's a little A on here and you can switch into auto, and you would adjust the aperture on the back of the camera like you normally would. So very cool. You can get those lenses for about 30 bucks, so that's an advantage since I was on a budget over the Canon. And there's some really good lenses. There's some really bad ones too, so you have to do a little bit of research, and you might buy some duds here or there. If you're buying them off eBay, a lot of people don't know about the camera equipment. They just sell it up. It was their grandfather's or whatever, so there might be fungus in the lens or something like that. But you could find some gems in the rough there. Here's another one I bought. This is an older one. This is also a Tokina. but this one actually has autofocus, so very cool. And so I was able to buy this for 50 bucks. You can find them as low as 30. But this thing is super sharp. I've got a review on this. The Takina 28-70 f3.5 to 4.5 has a cool little macro feature as well. Very cool. So you can check out the review on that. So all those things, kind of the budget and just being equal to Canon and slightly better than Canon on several of these different features, kind of made me buy this Pentax, and I'm loving it. Like I said, I'd recommend it over most of the other Canon crop sensor cameras in the same price range. Another cool feature that I liked about the Pentax is right there on the side. It has your manual focus on the camera, and then the autofocus, manual focus, and then your tracking focus, which is servo on the Canon. So it's a little switch on the side. On the Canon, you have to hit a button. You could custom do the button on the Canon, but it seemed quicker for me to switch it there on the side. I've gotten used to it. I know exactly where it is, and it works really well. Like that. That's just a little subtlety. But another thing that Pentax is good at is Canon lenses. You've got the regular version, say the 35mm camera lens, but then you have the 35mm IS version, image stabilization, if you want to go down to those lower shutter speeds and still be able to take a great picture within focus without any of the blur from the camera shake. Those are on the lenses. With Pentax, the actual image stabilization is in the camera, so the whole sensor kind of moves, and you could go to those lower shutter speeds. With Canon, it being on the lens, so every lens, it costs, well, not double, but almost double to get that IS on one of those lenses. So Pentax doesn't have any IS lenses, so you still get the benefit of it being on camera, not having to buy a lens with that IS. As far as pricing on the newer lenses, like I said, you get all those budget lenses, those older lenses. They're probably about the same. If you look at B&H, you can kind of compare depending on what you like to shoot. But the prime lenses on Pentax are very small, and with that little small compact body, it just makes it, you could put a bunch of prime lenses, fixed focal length, the prime lens, not as in just one focal length. And you put those all in a bag, and a very small bag like this bag right here, very small. You could probably fit those prime lenses. You could probably fit 4 or 5 in here. Versus if you got the Canon, you probably fit only 3 of the prime lenses or something like that. But I had a review on that bag if you want to check it out. But as I was saying, in conclusion, with all that blabbering I just did, the main reasons I would get a Pentax over a Canon is their image quality is very similar, just because how small the Pentax is, compact it is, and it's got all that weather sealing, and the availability to go back and get these older lenses, not having to use an adapter. And it has that focus confirmation inside the camera, as well as the image stabilization is built into the Pentax camera. You don't have to spend a little bit more on a Canon lens that has an IS. It's already built into the camera, so you don't have to worry about that. Those are the 3 main reasons I would get a Pentax over a Canon. Cost are around the same. Image quality, they're around the same. So just keep in mind, keep your mind open. You don't have to get Canon, Nikon. There's other great cameras out there. Pentax, Sony, Olympus, they all have great cameras. So do a little bit of reviews. Don't just jump out there and buy Canon or Nikon right off the bat. Thanks.